there's one thing that I always like to mention about conversion copy, and that it's a continuum. So on one side of it, there's sort of like it's being poorly done. Maybe it's not really, doesn't have any conversion elements. It's just sort of nice words on a page talking about the weather. And that's typically not very engaging at all. There's the other side of conversion copy where some people in the industry will get very into the dark arts of manipulation and persuasion, manipulation, and they will just wrangle people's insecurities to get the sale at all costs. And I really recommend, I'm passionate about working really in that middle space. And I recommend that other people do as well, because it can be engaging while being real and being respectful and creating that connection in a way that really respects both sides.
Welcome to the Agents of Change, the podcast experience you've been waiting for your entire marketing career. Search, social, mobile, AI, blockchain, and neuromarketing. These are the Agents of Change, and so are you. Digital marketing success awaits, and your transformation begins now.
Welcome back to another episode of the Agents of Change podcast. The podcast is here to help you reach and engage more of your ideal customers online. My name's Rich Brooks. I'm your host. This is episode 551, powered by the 10th annual Agents of Change Digital Marketing Conference. More on that in a minute. So much of the show and so much of my job as the head of a digital agency is about persuasion. It's about understanding where our prospects are and where they'd like to be, about helping them take action to improve their situation. Now, as referenced in this week's bumper, that's something that can be done from a positive space or a negative space. Persuasion, manipulation, influence, these are all double-edged swords. We want to persuade, but we don't want to misinform or misdirect. We want to get people to take action that's also in their best interest. As the son of a psychologist, and as someone who went to school thinking he wanted to be a psychologist, how people think and what makes them tick has always been of interest to me. So I'm very excited to dive into today's topic, which is all about conversion copywriting and what goes into copywriting that gets people to take action. Before we get to that, a quick reminder that we are almost at the 10th annual Agents of Change Digital Marketing Conference. It's coming up so quickly. This year it takes place on October 9th, and then we've got the deep dive workshops on October 10th, right here in Portland, Maine. We've got 15 digital marketing experts from across the US and Canada coming to Maine to share their best secrets to marketing success. In fact, here's one of them right now.
Hey friends, I am going to be at the Agents of Change conference on October 9th in Portland, Maine. Who doesn't want to go to Portland, Maine? It's actually a fantastic city and it's worth the trip. I myself am presenting. I'm honored to teach 10 AI methods for better B2B lead generation. It's a super practical method. You're going to walk through each with me. You're going to leave with the prompts. So join me, October 9th, Portland, Maine. Looking forward to it. See you there.
Andy actually had another take where he offered to buy everybody a beer when they get there. I didn't use that one, but I think if you come up to him sometime during the conference and just ask him for that free beer, I'm sure he'll do it. He's such a nice guy. Andy's brilliant, and I've actually been stealing from him, learning from him for years. And you can too. Just head on over to our website at theagentsofchange.com and grab your ticket. What's that? You can't make it to Portland, Maine? Well, that's disappointing because I would have liked to meet you in person. But even if you're one of those people who can't make it to Portland on October 9th or 10th, that's why we have a digital pass. You will be able to live stream everybody from the main stage and then be able to get every single session on demand for up to a year after the conference is over. 15 sessions in all. It's very affordable. Like I said, I hope you can make it to Portland, Maine. I hope you get a regular conference ticket or upgrade to one of our VIP passes. But if you can't, there's always a digital pass. As I'm recording this, we're still running our back to school special, which takes place throughout the month of September. It's $50 off your ticket. And because you're a listener to this podcast, I'm going to save you an extra $25. All you need to do is use the promo code AOCP, which is short for Agents of Change podcast, and you'll knock another $25 off of every ticket you purchase. All right, enough about the Agents of Change conference. Let's jump in to the Agents of Change podcast. My next guest is a business coach, marketing strategist, and copy advisor for professional service businesses and online course creators who are passionate about helping others. Her work has been featured in Yahoo Finance, CMS Wire, Voyage LA, and more. Today, we're going to look at how you can create copy that generates conversions, sales, and business with Suzanne Reilley. Suzanne, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Suzanne, what defines conversion copywriting and how does it differ from other types of writing that business owners or marketers might be more familiar with?
Definitely. And it's a great question because I think, first and foremost, a lot of business owners at all stages of business think that writing is all the same thing, including just basic writing we might do, like writing an email to friends or just writing anything throughout our day. And so they say like, oh, I've been writing since like third grade. I can write this email. I can write this sales page. But it's a little bit different. Conversion copywriting is not fiction writing. It's not creative writing. It's not what you would use to write a novel, though I'm sure maybe some of the elements can be similar. It's really the art and the science of engaging with your audience and then inviting them to take the next step with you in your business. So that's where the conversion comes in. It's really meant to get the opt-in or get the sale or get the, conversion can be any number of things, invite their attention for a webinar or anything like that.
As we're recording this, we just finished up with the Olympics, and it's something where it's like there's running, but then there's also specialized running. So you might train to run a marathon, or you might train to run the 100-yard dash to be the fastest man or woman on the planet. Very different skills, and you rarely see the same runners in both of those extremes. So there's a different style of writing, and I think you have to work towards it. I mean, this is a skill that you've developed and other copywriters have developed over the years. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yes.
Now, what advice would you give to business owners who want to write their own copy versus those who might prefer to hire a professional copywriter?
Definitely. And I think whether you are doing your own writing or hiring a professional copywriter, it's so smart to learn the professional skill set of conversion copywriting, because if you're hiring someone to do it, then you can talk shop with them about what they're doing, what their approach is, sort of the different sensibilities you might like to take. So even if you're hiring other people, I think it's really valuable because a lot of people are really just at zero, like they know nothing about it, even really established business owners. And then when they hire a copywriter, it becomes a little trickier because they're trying to connect on this thing that like one person is very experienced in and the other person is very passionate about, but has no training in, and there can be a disconnect. So I do think it's really great if people have the ability to write in an engaging way, write in a seamless way, write in a clear way to develop their skill in this, because it is a really high value skill set and it can be quite an investment to write this stuff all across your funnel and across your website. Whereas me with this skill set, I can turn around to my own website or my own stuff in a week or a day or a weekend, or, I can just sort of, if something needs to be done, I can just do it. And that's amazing. So it is something you need training in. And there are a couple of different places that I have learned, or places that I know of that people can go to that I believe are solid. And before I share those, I just want to caveat this with, I'm someone who's really focused in my learning. So I don't want to just be like learning and never getting anything out there. So I'm selective in who I choose to learn from. And I'm also selective in what I learn, because it does take time away from publishing things. So I have stayed very focused, and there could very well be other great people out there to learn from. I just haven't come across them myself. The place I learned to write conversion copy, I would say the main place is through Jeff Walker's product launch formula. And of course, that is focused on launches, it's going to be in the context of launches, but he really goes very deep into how to define your ideal client, how to do competitor research, how to funnel strategy, all of that stuff, and how to write conversion copy all across the funnel. Another resource I love is anything by Joanna Weave at Copy Hackers, and her stuff can be a little bit more advanced, but it's always solid. It's always on point. Anything you get from her is just really good stuff. And the other place that I haven't learned from, but when people come to me and they have learned from it, I can really help them refine their craft. There's a lot of synergy, is StoryBrand, Donald Miller's approach. And so that seems to be another customer focused one, another really good one. And basically anywhere you're learning from, I recommend it be something that is customer focused, voice of customer research focused, and something that is respectful of an audience and also focused on results. So I would say those are the things to look for in case you're looking for someone outside of that realm.
Suzanne, how important is it to understand your ideal client before crafting your message? And what are some of the ways that you gather that type of insight?
I think it's absolutely imperative because, again, I find that many business owners of all experience levels, sizes of business, it's really easy for us to think, but this is what I want to tell people. This is what will make an impact for them. This is what's important. But your customers they may be in a really different place than you. They may be in a really different mindset than you. They might be 10 years behind in your process, even if they're advanced, even if you think they're advanced. And so it's really important to do that customer research to uncover what it is they really want, what outcomes they're really going for, just what's going on in their lives right now that's causing them to reach out to you so that you can meet them exactly where they are and make the most meaningful connection. So there are a couple of different ways I go about this. One is Amazon reviews, looking in the comments section of books or resources. Usually it's books, but that are similar to what you offer, and looking at the conversation going on in the comment section. Also the comment section of competitors' social media posts, just understanding the overall vibe of what an audience is, their hopes, dreams, fears, and aspirations, and really pulling out some of those specific phrases and desires, elements of story from that conversation. If you have an established social media yourself, you can also do this within the comment section of your own posts, as well as past client communication. Even if people have been in business for a short time, there's always communications of people reaching out, wanting some help, saying like, this is where I'm at, can you help me? Or just conversations from clients that you've had going forward. It's better if you can draw from things that are written down rather than your own memory, because it really keeps things very tangible and focused. But yeah, so those are the top three that I go to. And it's great because you can get really, really on point information from those sources in, like, again, if you have to turn something around quickly, you can go look for some information in an afternoon or in a couple of days. Yeah.
Okay. Now, one of the things that a lot of people are talking about today is how to be authentic in your marketing, in your copy. How do you balance being conversational and real with ensuring that the copy is still persuasive and perhaps professional?
That's a fantastic question. I think there's one thing that I always like to mention about conversion copy, and that it's a continuum. So on one side of it, there's sort of like, it's being poorly done. Maybe it's not really, doesn't have any conversion elements. It's just sort of nice words on a page talking about the weather. And that's typically not very engaging at all. There's the other side of conversion copy where some people in the industry will get very into the dark arts of manipulation and persuasion, manipulation, and they will just wrangle people's insecurities to get the sale at all costs. And I really recommend, I'm passionate about working really in that middle space. And I recommend that other people do as well, because it can be engaging while being real and being respectful and creating that connection in a way that really respects both sides. So that's like sort of the high level piece of it. And I think one way to think about this is, for like the coaches out there, or even if we're having a conversation with a good friend, we're listening for what matters to them and then either acknowledging the place that they're in, or if it's appropriate, offering a solution or a piece of advice or something like that. And so it really ends up looking a lot like that, looking and feeling a lot like that. And so people typically in that space will end with the feeling of like, wow, this person really understands me and they really heard me and they really know where I'm at and my experience matters to them. And I think usually they can feel when you genuinely care. So I think it's a lot of it is really hearing and understanding a person and offering them a solution that actually matters to them. It goes a huge way towards making that connection and quote unquote driving the conversion. But it's really a matter of there are people who need your product or service. You have this product or service and you're making a meaningful connection rather than like talking out in left field on something that they don't really care about.
All right. Now, it seems these days, even within the realm of digital marketing, that there are so many channels that we might engage people with. We're talking about websites, landing pages, social media, email marketing. Do you need to have a different approach to each one of those channels, or is it more of a one size fits all?
It's a great question. And I think in general, the approach is similar with all of them. It does vary a little bit in terms of the place your audience is coming from. So, of course, if they're coming to a website or social media, however you sort of have your marketing plan set up, they may be hearing about you for the first time, or they might know you a little bit and they're learning more. Or if they've been with you for a long time and you're sending an email about a product or service to purchase that, it's a different type of message because you know them better. So I think going back to just the idea of a friend or someone it's like, what kind of conversation are you having when you've just met them? Or versus if you've known them for 3 years and they're helping you move or something like that. Right. So it's like the essence of the conversation changes, but I do find that the concepts of conversion copywriting that I do highly recommend people learn, they tend to be somewhat similar across channels.
Yeah, it almost sounds like it's more about where they are in their customer journey or where they are in the sales funnel, depending on your metaphor. That actually might dictate more of how you're speaking to them rather than the channel. Although the channels may be relevant to where they are. Still, it's more about how deep is that relationship? And that's how you might speak to them.
Absolutely. And also sometimes, I'm always learning, but even earlier on in the process, when I didn't know as many channels as well, it would be a matter of like, okay, let me get to know this channel. What's like the fabric of the channel? What's the vibe of the channel? What's the format of the channel? What are the best practices of the channel? And then I can format conversion copy principles to work with that. So I think, yes, in addition to what we were just saying is very true about the stage of awareness, but also just like, how does this particular channel work? It's great to just sort of like get a quick download on that and then format the conversation for that space.
Awesome. So we touched on it a little bit, calls to action, kind of where the rubber hits the road. What are some of your best practices when it comes to calls to action? And how do you know when it's time for that call to action within your persuasive copy?
The best practices for calls to action, I will say just all across my, I've been learning about digital marketing for about 10 years and doing professional work in this space for about 8. And especially early on, I just made so many big mistakes. Like, usually in my own space, not with clients, I made sure I knew what I was doing before I worked with clients. But so I just have such a personal understanding of what works and what doesn't. And like it's just those mistakes are so big and so expensive. And so they like really stick with you. And so I think with the call to action, it really does come back to your ideal client, your audience. You are, when you're writing conversion copy or crafting anything for your funnel, It's so important to think of that one person that this is for. And when I'm writing anything, I just immerse myself in their experience. I'm just soaking in what's happening in their world, all the nuances, everything about it. And I started the message, meets them at the conversation going on in their mind at that time, and respectfully channels their desires onto your product. And so usually sometimes the copy is short, sometimes the copy is longer, depending on what needs to be said, what's important to them at that time. And then from there, the call to action is very seamless. So it's like, it's easy to get jumbled in this when it comes to business. People are like, well, how do I do it? How do I, going back to analogies, it's like giving someone a gift. It's like, you were telling me such and such, and I know you like this. And so like, I knew it was your birthday. And so like, I got you this. And so it's like, that's the call to action. And that is how effortless the message can be and how genuinely helpful the message can be. And then when it's time to give them the gift or make them the offer, it should be something that they would absolutely adore anyway. I think it's really, really important to have product market fit. And then with those two things in place, the call to action becomes pretty seamless.
All right. Now, I've been in the agency, the marketing industry for 27 something years. And I've worked with a lot of businesses, and some of them love the idea of bringing in a copywriter. And other ones are like, I've worked with copywriters before and they can never write, in the right style for our industry. There's too much jargon, whatever it is. What do you feel are some common misconceptions that business owners have about working with copywriters? And what advice might you give them so they can get better outcomes when they are working with copywriters?
Yeah, it's an important question. And I think one of the misconceptions that business owners have is that copywriters need to know your industry exactly. Like, they need to specialize in your industry. They need to know what your audience wants to hear. They need to be like that specialized in what you do. And I think what's more beneficial is actually when a business has a very clearly established brand guideline of like not one that you shove in the drawer, like a really usable brand guideline of what are your business goals? What are you looking to do? Who's your ideal client? Like the voice of customer research about that ideal client, not just like they're married, they're 27 or whatever, but like, what are the emotional drivers? What are their hopes, dreams, fears, and aspirations? The competitor research, your tested and proven offers, if you have them, or to know that if they're new and you're testing them out. So to have all of that in a document is just beautiful. I think that is really like an ideal world that not everyone's going to have, and that's okay. But that is really what helps the copywriter understand how to just jump right in and know your audience. Because even if I know an audience, when I was writing a lot of copy, like I want to know about that specific business. Even if they're in an industry, they have a different landscape. They have a different history. They have a different relationship with their audience than maybe a different business in the exact same industry. And so they might have a different ideal client, a different angle they're approaching things from. And so I always want to know that business uniquely anyway. So I've worked with a lot of industries that I know nothing about. And I was very clear with that going in with the business owner. And they were like, oh, that's okay, we'll teach you. And I can just like soak in information pretty well. So I was able to turn that back around and I believe do some solid work. And so I think it doesn't always have to be as specialized as they think, especially if it's a copywriter who's working from research, from voice of customer research. There are a lot of copywriters that'll say like, oh, I just want to interview, because I've hired copywriters as well. So I know the insanity of like this process. A lot of copywriters will say, oh, I just interview the business owner and help them say what they want to say. And that's not really conversion copywriting. We want to connect with the customer, not necessarily only the business owner.
Yeah, I guess there's always going to be areas that just we cannot reach. And so there may be a better person out there. For
Yeah.
people who are interested in what you have, who want to learn more about what you're doing, who may be looking to bring on an external copywriter, where can we send them?
Absolutely. So most of the work I'm doing these days is in the copy advising space, though I do take on select copy projects. At my website, SuzanneReilley.com, I have a free email opt-in. It's called Content Calendar Mastery. Map out a year's worth of engaging topics in 90 minutes or less. And this seamless, proven approach gets right to the heart of what your customers want most.
Awesome. Sounds great. Definitely recommend people check it out, download it. We'll have those links in the show notes. Suzanne, thank you so much. Really appreciate your expertise.
Rich, thanks so much for having me.
Whether you want to write your own copy or hire a copywriter to work with you, I hope you got a lot out of today's episode. If you missed anything, if you want the full transcript, if you want the summary, if you want the links that Suzanne shared with us, they're all available for free at our website. Just head on over to theagentsofchange.com/551. And while you're there, be sure to check out all the information about our upcoming digital marketing conference. You can see the speakers, you can see the agenda, you can grab your ticket, and I look forward to seeing you in October. But wait a sec, I have one favor to ask you. If you have a friend who runs a business or is in marketing or is responsible for business development, would you do me a favor and just introduce them to the show? You can send them a link to this episode or any other one of the episodes, send them to the website. It doesn't matter. But that's really how we spread the word about the Agents of Change podcast and how we can help more people and get them to grow their businesses online. That's it for this week, but make sure that you're subscribed because we have great content coming your way, amazing guests, everybody who's here to help you become an agent of change.
Don't miss another thrilling episode of the Agents of Change podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform.